Hello, good afternoon, everyone. You hear me?
Yes.
Okay, and this afternoon session, we're going to begin with the migrant worker project that Shanakan going to present. So Shanakan, you there? You ready to present?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I give you 30 minutes for presentation and then the rest like 10 or 15 minutes going to use for Q&A, okay? Please share
Yes.
your presentation.
Here. It's my voice loud and clear enough?
I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Let me introduce yourself. I'm Shanakan Witit from Chiang Mai University, and the project that I work on is the COVID-19 and migrant worker with the vulnerability and coping strategy of migrant sex worker. And I do this project with Assistant Professor Dr. Arati Ayutakhan from Chiang Mai University as well. Okay, let's begin our brief introduction very quickly. So here, the COVID-19 has caused numerous severe effects on every class of people, which situation is further worse on vulnerable people and sex workers. They are one of the marginalized vulnerable groups and being toughly affected by the pandemic. Yet they were excluded from the amelioration, including health services and economic support. Therefore, they have to struggle more to survive, and each individual will have different coping strategies and livelihood according to the dissimilarity of the assets they possesses. And here are my two research questions. The first one is, what are migrant sex worker vulnerability factors caused by COVID-19? And the second one is, what coping strategies they use to develop their livelihood in order to survive during COVID-19. And the research objects, the first one is to identify migrant sex workers' primary vulnerability and additional factors that caused by COVID-19. And number two is to examine the impacts of COVID-19 on migrant sex workers. The last one is to relate individual access to their coping strategies and their effects on their livelihood. For the relevant literature review, there's this two main title of that. The first one is vulnerability. The definition of it is that the diminished capacity of an individual group to anticipate or cope with or resist and recover from the impact of the pandemic. And the context of the vulnerability, it includes trends and shocks and seasonality. So the COVID-19, it can consider as the shocks that hit the vulnerable and cause more obstacles to the vulnerable group. The second is the coping strategy and the livelihood. It includes livelihood assets, which I'm going to talk about in the framework, and the support from policy and institutions. Here is our framework. So you can see here the vulnerability and context factors. It was affected by three main factors, which are COVID-19, of course, the livelihood assets, including human capital, social capital, natural capitals, physical capital, and financial capitals. And the last one is the policies and institutions, which here includes the government and the foundation. And all of these leads to the coping strategy that they got to cope with the obstacles they're encountering. And when they already have the strategy, the outcome is their livelihood, which they can have more income, their well-being is better, and they can reduce their vulnerabilities. So about the research methodology, first, the research site, we choose Can-Do-Bar, Empower Foundation. So Empower Foundation is like a Thai sex worker organization that promoting opportunities and rights for the sex worker equally, both from both the Thai sex worker and migrant sex worker as well. And unfortunately, that due to the COVID-19, we didn't have a chance to have a face-to-face interview with the interviewees, but we once visited the Can-Do-Bar and had a chance to talk and had a conversation with the Empower Foundation representative, and we gained a lot of information from that too. Okay, the study group will be the female migrant sex worker whose age is between 18 and 50. They must do not own a Thai citizenship, and they must willing to give us information. Here we need their verbal consent. It doesn't have to be like the documents consent, because we want to protect their privacy as well. Here's our research method. We use mixed method, which consists both of technical and strategic levels of quantitative and qualitative research. So the pros of mixed method are the present is to present diversity of idea gathered during data collection. The second one is it is able to give a voice to the interviewee to express their point of view and their aspect. The last one is to ensure those study findings and make sure that it is grounded in interviewees' experience and by statistical analysis. Here is our ethical consideration. The first one is to protect the privacy of interviewees. And the second one is the interviewees might be willing to give us verbal consent, because sex work in Thailand is still criminalized, and we want to safeguard the interviewees' anonymity. The third one, the work are considered as vulnerable group, therefore we will not check on their work permit. And the last one is that the interviewees can avoid giving information if they feel uncomfortable anytime. And about the data collection, we have three parts of it. The first part is the interview. We consist of two sections. The first one is the questionnaires about the quantitative data, including age, income, their expenditure, etc. We plan to have about 17 interviewees. Oh, sorry, but now we only got 4 out of them. And also in-depth interview, we wanted to collect the qualitative data. We expected the number 15, but now we only got 4 as well, due to the COVID problems. And the participation observation, due to the COVID-19 situation, we still don't have a chance to observe the activity during COVID-19 yet. But as I said, we once visited the Can-Do-Bar and had a chance to speak with the representative of Empower Foundation. And the secondary data is from previous relevant research and academic journals, websites, newspaper articles, and etc. So here, the result that we found. Let me start with the historical context. Well, I have to skip the demographic because the information we have now is not valid enough. We just got 4 out of 15 and 17, and I think we need more information to ensure that. Okay, let's begin our historical context. So It is recorded in 1980 that Ayutthaya, it is the previous capital of Siamese kingdom, has officially licensed the noble to run the brothel. And they were both Thai and foreign sex workers since then, but mostly are Chinese. They came along with the Chinese merchant in that time. And back then, the sex workers are not a criminal occupation. It was not against the law. So I want you to understand the term of not against the law. It doesn't mean that it's legal, because legal is mean that you have to like register to the official. But no, this is not required, and you can do it without without having to like accept the guilty of a crime as well. And by the beginning of the Ratanakosin period, which is the present capital of Thailand now, it's still not against the law until the reign of King Rama V, and the abolition of slavery increased the number of sex workers, because you know the girls, they only know how to clean the house and they don't really have like a high education in that time. So when there was a abolition of slavery, they don't know what to do with their life, and some of them has become the sex worker to survive and to earn some money for themselves and for the family. And the increasing number of sex workers, it's followed by the spread of venereal diseases. And this leads to the Prevention of Communicable Disease Act, was legislated in 1908. The sex worker was then a legal occupation that required their registration with the official. You see the difference, not against the law and legal occupation. Here's just a little bit difference in here. So during the Cold War, step a little bit closer to the present time, Thailand was under the control of the military cabinet led by General Storit Thanarat. In that time, he and his cabinet enacted the Suppression of Prostitution Act in 1960 to follow the resolution of the UN, who in that time defined prostitution as the cause of various deterioration in society and deteriorate the dignity of human being, which is very sad because it's the freedom of the body. It is their choice, but they have put a negative view on the prostitution. But it wasn't like Thailand wanted to be like a good members of the UN. There's something more than that, which is the hidden agenda. It was to please the US. Therefore, the government could still receive the financial and military support from the US. Because you know, in that time, the US they used Thailand as the army base, and there were a lot of GIs from United States resting and have a home in Thailand. So that is a cause that the number of sex workers was increasing in that time. But then this act come out. Those girls don't know what to do. Those women didn't know what to do with their life. And what should they do? They have to hide themselves. And they transform themselves into like an entertainer instead. But they also do like the sex work job in the same time. And that it caused the difficulties to control the number and you know the disease during that time, because it's already an illegal occupation. From then until now, the law is still the same. It's not changed yet, and they're working on it to change the law to be more present and more liberal also. Okay, so the vulnerabilities. The first one that caused by the law Well, the latest act of the prostitution is the Prevention and Suppression of Prostitution Act in 1996. It has criminalized the sex worker, and this criminalization exposes sex workers to abuse and exploitation by law enforcement officials like the police and by the law itself. And it leads to more vulnerability to violence, including rape, assault, and murder by the attackers who see sex workers as easy targets because they are stigmatized and unlikely to receive help from the official. And it also forces sex workers to work in unsafe locations to avoid arresting. And for migrant sex worker, the situation is even worse because there's the law about the prohibited jobs for foreigners in Thailand, such as like front shop workers, selling, masseuse, and entrepreneur, for example. And when the crisis began, when they was hit by the shock of COVID-19, this act has narrowed their door to survive. When the bars and the nightlife sites was shut, it left them no choice. They cannot do those occupations freely, so they have to sneak to do those jobs secretly. And sometimes they was some employer was not being fair to them because they see that, okay, you're doing a prohibited job. It is my decision to decide about your salary and the money I will give you and about the period of time that you have to work. It doesn't depends on the migrant worker itself. It depends on the employer. Okay, and number two, it's the vulnerabilities caused by COVID-19. The first one is health risk, because some of them still work, still do the sex work, and some of them has like a sideline jobs at some masseuse. So the physical touch cannot be avoided, and they have to take the risk of getting infected from the customers. And the financial issue from the closure of the nightlife sites and being laid off from their jobs. And the third one is the mental health issues that caused by their stress and anxiety about their family being and also themselves. So here is a vulnerability that caused by the institution policy. The first one, I'm going to start with the government and official. Well, it increased the vulnerability by not providing a proper amelioration. And the income of the sex worker was decreased by the measure lockdown and curfew, those stuff. But yet they still left behind with no compensation, and that's not really fair for them. It's like the trains of the government policy here that is another hit and increases more vulnerability to the migrant sex worker. The second one is there's no vaccine allocation for migrant sex workers from the government, and they cannot afford the alternative vaccine from the private hospital as well because it is too expensive for them. They don't have enough money for that. And the third one is that they did not facilitate the process of visa and passport renewal. On the other hand, they forced the migrant sex worker to renew their documents with the same rate of fee, even if it has not expired yet. And it is even more expensive for the migrants who hire the middleman to assist this process. From the information that I got, it is more than 10,000 baht for one time of arranging and doing this document stuff. Okay, and there's more about the government official. The law is still a crucial issue that prevents sex workers from having more alternative to survive. They don't have really much choice about doing the jobs and the occupations. And the Social Development and Human Security Office, which is a part of the government, it is an official authority. They do supported the community by holding a vocational training for sex workers. And migrant sex workers had a chance to participate in that with the help of Empower Foundation. At first, they would just wanted to hold it for Thai sex worker only, but Empower Foundation, they negotiated and like, please let the migrant sex worker join, so that they can have more like more alternative for their life. But the problem is they cannot fully apply things they learned to cope with the situation they are facing right now. Because first, it is prohibited for the migrant to work as a seller. Like they taught you how to do sushi, how to do lunch, how to cook food, and those occupation is prohibited for migrant sex worker. And the second, they don't have enough capitals to start. Or if they have, it is not easy for them to find the target customer either. And like it was like teaching them how to hunt, but you put them to hunt in a sanctuary. That's the same situation. And the vulnerability in session and policy about Empower Foundation here. Empower Foundation, from what I found, is a safe zone for sex workers to speak up their mind and discuss about the problem that they face. And here in this foundation, everyone is equal, no matter what race they are and no matter what age they reach. And it provides sex workers compensation by the capital that the foundation have itself. And they provide the appliance, the rice, the food security, the food, and they also provided the financial help for some sex workers that need. And they also be the mediator of sex worker community, and also they be the mediator between sex worker and government. Okay, now it's about the livelihood assets that affect the vulnerability. We start with the human capital. So their education is not higher than high school. It because the destitution and such limited time that they have prevent them from having higher education. And plus, higher education seems not to be much helpful for the situations now, because there are few companies having ability to hire employees in nowadays, and the employers tends to neglect education level of migrant employee. They don't really care much about how high your education is. They just care that, okay, you're a migrant sex worker, so I can like lower your salary. That's what they care. And if they are in a good health condition, they tend to be able to earn more money from physical strength and power. But meanwhile, they have to deal with the risks of getting COVID-19 infection too. Okay, more about human capital. The migrant sex worker, actually, they know the important information of COVID-19. They know what the symptom is, and they know how to protect themselves very well, I would say. They know it very well. But there are some times that they cannot avoid the physical touch, as I said before, because some sideline jobs requires physical touch, which customer, must use. For example, you cannot just like remotely like misuse via Zoom. That cannot happen. That's impossible. Okay, the second asset is the financial capital. So the first one is saving money. Well, saving money, it can relieve difficulties in the beginning of the pandemic, but the problem is it hasn't been, the problem is still there. It hasn't been solved. And when the saving money is used up, they will have to struggle to survive again. So it's not like a sustainable way to cope with the problem. The second one is earning money from sideline jobs, such as housekeeper, waitress, and sailors. You can see that some occupation here is prohibited, but they have to like sneak to do this job in order to survive. The third one is a financial assistance from the Empower Foundation that they receive, and some from family members, but those numbers is very, very little compared to the expenditure per month. So it is not enough for sure. And they also receive the compensate from social insurance, but it has been a year and a half, almost 2 years. They only got like less than 5,000 baht from that social insurance. And one point that it's very concerned is that their financial capital is largely decreased by the pandemic. Now their income is less than 10,000 baht per month. Before they have about like up to 20,000 baht, and now it has decreased. And someone of less than 5,000 baht, which is barely enough to survive. Okay, the social capital. The social capital is the asset that highly dominates their life, their livelihood during COVID-19. The details I will speak more in the coping strategy section, but now I just introduce you what they have as the social capitals. And the social capital that they possess are the family and social connections and relations, such as the allies from both internal and external sex worker community. And also they have the Empower Foundation as a mediator, so they can connect with some organization that is not in Chiang Mai or even sometime across the country. And the third one, very important, which is the social media. We'll see what they do in a minute. The fourth livelihood asset is the physical capitals. For example, the house renting. Well, they cannot afford a house because they don't have enough money for that, and they cannot access the financial credit system of Thailand also. But at least they have a house to live in and rest to fight for the life on the following day. At least they have a home. The second factor is that they can access to the information about the current situation of COVID-19. But one concern is that there are very little information about the vaccine from migrant workers. That is important, but there's no information about that. This is the crucial concerns that I have. Okay, the last livelihood assets will be the natural capital. Sometimes the weather has an effect on their income in a specific day. You know, like for example, in a heavy raining days, it of course decreases the number of customers that will buy their products and also cause inconvenience during their work. Imagine if they do some like construction work and it was raining. Of course, there was no work on that day, or if there is, it's going to be a lot harder. Okay, here we come, the coping strategies. The first one is the usage and adaptability of social asset. As I say, social asset is a very important asset of the social worker and the social connection here. is highly important for sex workers to survive during COVID-19, because the information they gain, including available jobs for migrant sex worker, like where can I get a job, and where that they accept a migrant sex worker, or about the COVID-19 situation and vocational training. They are from the internal community allies. They have like a line group and they share the news, they talk to each other, they consult with each other. And that's the profit of having a social connection. And social media is another helpful tool for migrant sex workers to seek for an available job. And it is a platform to launch their merchandise they're selling as well. But some platform that it doesn't allow them to promote their merch easily. For example, Facebook, they're gonna block your merchandise from other people's viewing, and you have to pay for them to advertise and become visible. Yeah, that's the consequences of the capitalism. Okay, we still add the usage and adaptability of social asset. For some migrant sex workers who start running their business, the family's member can be their workforce and help them to run the business. So it will be easily for someone who have the family live in Chiang Mai together. Or sometimes their friends will support them by purchasing what they sell and share the news to other people, like a free PR. And for some migrant sex workers who don't have enough capital to start a business, they became a middleman by purchasing the merch from their friends and selling it to others. And the community members tend to provide financial support to whom they're close with. And this means a lot to a low-income sex worker. It's like a God's help. Even I had a conversation with an interviewee. She said that she accepts some money from her friends for 500 baht, and she was crying because she can live like 2 weeks out of 500 baht, and I was very shocked for that. Okay, the second one is they receive the useful advice from an experienced friend. For example, one of their friends suggests them to own a social insurance so that they can get some compensate from the insurance. Or someone they give information or advice about where to launch your product, your merchandise, where to sell it. Yeah, those kind of stuff. And the last one is the mental support from family and friends. This is very important because, you know, there's a lot of stress and anxiety happening toward the situation, and somehow they need to release the stress, and the person or the people who they can release that stress with is the families and of course their friends. There's a very interesting information that I found here from the interviewing. It makes us sure that the social asset is very, very important for surviving during COVID-19. Because one case, the interviewee, she lived in Chiang Mai alone, and she has a much smaller social connection than others, and also a smaller numbers of friends. And she has less effective coping strategies and less access to the news. She barely knows about the news or the occupations that they were sharing. And of course, she has less income. And she can earn not more than 3,000 baht since the third wave of the pandemic, 3,000 baht per month. And she's still facing the same obstacle until now. There's still no compensation, and she struggled very hard to survive. Here, we can see the importance of social asset in one life. The second coping strategy, sorry, I wrote the number wrong. that's my fault. Apologize for that. Is that the negotiation with the government. But here, the negotiation with the government is preceded by the Empower Foundation. They have sent an open letter to the cabinet calling for proper compensation and assistance for both Thai and migrant sex workers equally. And on the 29th of June, which is like 3 days ago, the sex worker in Thailand, including Empower Foundation representative, they use panties and high heels to protest COVID-19 shutdown and demanding for financial compensation from the authorities. Here is some pictures that I found 3 days ago. It received a lot of interest from Thai people, and now there are more people that concerns about the life of social of the sex worker, both Thai and migrants. So they also launched a petition calling for prostitution to be decriminalized and urging authorities to remove all the penalties for selling sex. Meaning here is to make sex work not against the law, not legal, not illegal, but not against the law. I've already described the difference between that. And here are the suggestions that I received. The first one is the government and official authorities should urgently distribute the vaccine and allow the migrant sex workers to access it. The second, there should be an amelioration for migrant sex workers to help them cope with the obstacles. The third one is the Prevention and Suppression of Prostitution Act must be amended. It means the laws needs to be fixed. The sex work must be an occupation that one can choose to do without guilty of crime. Here we are, the conclusion. The conclusion is the livelihood of the migrant sex workers relies on how they affected their coping strategies are, how efficient the institutional help is, and the livelihood assets that they possesses. Unfortunately, in Thailand, the support from the government and official authorities did not compensate well for migrant sex workers, but Empower Foundation stepped in and helped community reducing the vulnerabilities they have to encounter. But not only the assistance from Empower, it's their own devotion. The migrant sex workers in Thailand themselves reduce their own vulnerabilities by making a profit from the livelihood assets that they have, especially the social asset. And moreover, they're part of the negotiation with the government through the operation of Empower Foundation. As you can see that the migrant sex workers are still left behind, but they have devoted, adapted everything that they have to speak themselves and struggle to live through the crisis with a light of hope that the future will be better for them. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Very interesting presentation. So now I would like to draw the question or the comments from the floor. Please. Yeah, I would like to hear the comments from you guys. Yeah, Ajahn Alanya, please.
Thank you very much, Shanaka. You have done a lot of work, very hard, right?
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I have done a lot of work.
Okay, I have two points to dialogue with you, to share some ideas.
Yes, please.
Yeah, the first one is the second question that you asked about the coping strategy. It seems to me that we see the activity, a lot of activity that they try to cope with the COVID-19, no? But when you apply the concept, especially the multiple capitals, in the second section that you presented, right? Okay, what I see is the second section not yet to connect with the coping strategy. So if it's possible that you grouping the coping strategy uh, into the relevant capitals that you just conceptualize, because it's quite break into activity, not yet the conceptualize the activity into your own concept. No, so I would see, I think it would be better if you grouping all the activity that you mentioned as the coping strategy into the previous concept. That's the first one. The second one is the historical context for the sex workers in Thailand. The first one is when you mention the historical context, I think it's very long history. You know? So probably you can mention quite the current situation would be best. And especially one dimension that you may be lost. It's not just about law at all. It's about the moral and religious uh, dimension aspect, you know, that deal with the sex worker. And you haven't mentioned these kinds of the moral and religious aspect at all in Thailand, you know, when thinking about sex worker. You know, the last one is my question, because in the last meeting when you presented the proposal, you you did mention that you will do kind of the survey, do the questionnaire, some kind like that. If you do that, if you did, please provide some information. If not, I'm just fine. It's okay.
Now there's only four interviewees. So the system of Google Form, the Google Sheet that links with the Google Form, it cannot be easily corrected, because now I still have to develop some qualitative, some quantitative questions, because I think my questionnaire is still not really on point, so I still have to develop it and put in the information, and it will like come out as the sheet that already is being analyzed.
Is that you will keep doing that?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
So are you going to collect more data?
Yes, of course. I'm planning to do more, and I wish that I can do my best to make a good research that have a reliable information and validate the information.
Okay. Thank you, Atanju, for
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
useful information. I agree that we should put some moral, religious context into historical context, and also try to select only relevant information, like focus more on the social capital, right? To link it into strategy. So then, is there any other comments from the floor, please?
I do have a question.
Okay,
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was very interesting, and it was a very serious issue to study about. So my question is, in your presentation, you mentioned about the alternative way of like coping with COVID for sex worker, like suggesting using the social medias to sell their products. So even in their online like commercial sex, they might face the like cyberbullying or for their safety and exploitation. So do you think there are like policies or any organization or foundation looking on that issue as well when they like for their safety?
Now there's still no particular organization working on that, but I hope that the future there will be someone step up and speak up for them.
Thank you.
so is there any more comments? Maybe
Could
from
I
Sophia
go
University?
next?
Thank you,
Yes.
Ajahn. Please.
Yeah, thank you for the very informative the presentation, and I'm sure it's not really easy topic to investigate. And I have perhaps two questions. One is about the data collection method you interviewed for the study subjects, sex workers. Did you like interview them like face to face, or did you, you know, did you do the interview like online interview?
Yes, I did an online interview, all of them.
Is that because you're not allowed to enter the? Is that because you're not allowed to go to the places where they're working?
Actually, we were allowed to go to that place, but in that time, COVID-19 in Chiang Mai was in a very bad situation. So they just like, they want to save themselves too, and they want to save us too, because they don't know where their people were going. They don't know where we were going. So just like safety first. But at the beginning of doing the data collection, I had a chance to visit the research site. I and my professor went there ourselves and has a conversation with the representative of the foundation. And they're very welcome us and give us a very useful information as well.
I see. The reason why I'm asking this is because I just wonder if there's a possibly the difference in the way that you know your interviewees would respond to your questions if they are you know, meeting you face to face or talking to you online, and especially when it comes to asking sort of sensitive questions. You know, you could argue that maybe they may open up with the online because they can, you know, join from anywhere they want. They could secure the privacy, but at the same time, you know, they may find it difficult to build rapport with you if it's online. So, you know, you ultimately have to take a sort of a balance. But what's your view on this? Do you think online is better or the face-to-face is better when it comes to asking questions that you wanted to ask?
I think face-to-face is a lot better. You know, well, they during we having a Zoom interview, there was also like the like I can say the head of the foundation was like observing them, and sometimes the information that they gain, we still want more information, but the time is up, and like, yeah, they were gone, and some question hasn't been answered. So if they were face to face, it would be a lot easier to continue asking them the question and collect more data. And also, I think like meeting face to face can create more like trust that they give us, and they may provide us more information because they feel more comfortable. Yeah, that is my thought.
Yeah, I think this is a really quite important point when it comes to doing the research on some sensitive topic. And yeah, one more question, perhaps a bit more simple one, but you mentioned that this empowerment program of the Thai government, they do provide some kind of vocational training to sex workers to do sewing, to make a sushi. I'm not sure if that's what you said.
Yes.
Is that what you said? Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, they have.
I love to be served, but but at the same time, you know, it's also true that those sex workers are not allowed to work in that kind of industries. So is the government actually aware? I mean, why do they provide a kind of training knowing that they're not supposed to be working in the kind of industries?
Well, the most simple answer will be because they are the present government. No, I'm kidding. Well, the answer is that at first they only wanted to provide it for the Thai sex worker only, but the empowered they feel that the migrants needs to participate it as well, and the empowered they're responsible for all the expenditure for the migrant sex worker, and that of official authorities they responsible for the Thai sex worker fee. And I think the government, they know what the problem is, but they don't really feel like it's an urgent to fix it. But like I say, 3 days ago, there was a protest in front of the parliament, and it drives the people attention to it. And I think the situation is going to get better in the future.
I see. Good. In a way, it's the fact that the government provides that kind of training, knowing that they are not supposed to be working itself is a data, isn't it? You know,
Yes.
it shows the how serious or not serious the government is trying to improve the conditions of sex workers. So, okay, but yeah, thank you, and wish you good luck on continuation of your research.
Thank you so much, Professor Taro.
Thank you for your comments and insight question. So we have few minutes left. Is there any question? Last question?
Maybe not.
No? If no question, yeah, I would like to close this session and hand the floor to Alanya. Are you ready to handle the floor? I have another mission. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much, everyone. I need to leave because I have a taste following. Thank you so much for thank you so much for your listening and attention. Goodbye. Have a nice day.
See you tomorrow.
See you. I will surely join this.
Okay, the second topic is it's about the health volunteer, village health volunteer, which have the 3 students from CMU, Timothy, and Thanawat, and also Natchanon. If you are ready, please start.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. So our group is about the COVID-19 and health volunteers. So we focus in the COVID situation, MECU and village health volunteer. So here we have 3 members. Yeah. Next slide, please. So this is the contents that we are going to present today, like literature review, conceptual framework, and findings, and so on. Yeah. Next, please. So these are the picture that we want in our field, in the like sub-district officials. We're meeting with officials and volunteers and teachers. Yes. So first of all, for the like problem statement, the COVID-19 was announced as the public health emergency on January 30, 2020. Following by that announcement, there have been like guidelines for the general public policies, like social distancing, lockdown, and closing public spaces, areas, and doing and quarantine. So it was the global pandemic, which was also affecting the Thailand. So Thailand's experience of COVID-19. So the first case of the COVID in Thailand was on 30 January 2020. So after that case found the suppression on 18th March, Thailand announced to close all of the schools and public areas and doing the travel restrictions and like setting up the checking points and like enforcing the curfew if it was necessary. So according to for the response of the Thailand to the COVID management, WHO had a review report for their management by focusing on their strengths and their strengths and factors for their management. So by looking at that, for example, we can see that Thailand has the strong leadership and changing demand administrative system, and also well-resourced public health system and experience with the major infectious disease in the past outbreaks like SARS and H1N1. And also the cultural norms of Thailand is different from other like Western countries. For example, in greeting Thai people do not use like contact greeting, like hugging or kissing. So they which because of their cultural difference, it was one of the advantage or benefit in controlling the suppression of the disease. And also mask wearing, which is this, like in the past, most of the people from Chiang Mai or Bangkok, they have experience with air pollution. So wearing mask was very familiar with them. So they have the habit of wearing mask even in the, like when it comes to the COVID-19. And also not only those healthcare system, but there are also a deep engagement with the academic and private sector as well. Because of all of those factors, it strengthened the management of the COVID in Thailand. Yes, next please. So we are going to focus more about the resource and public health system in the Thailand, working with the VHV. So that they have a goal like healthcare for all. So in order to get access to the healthcare from not like all people, even the people from the rural areas, like they launched a program of community-based VHV program, which is also known as the village health volunteers. So in here, the spectrum process of participation of volunteers are like generally organization, planning, evaluation, and cooperation together. They in their job, they contribute their time, labor, resources. It can be individually or as a groups. So in order to be work as a VHV, they have to have access, like train as a, like to become a VHV, they got training, and also some of them have experience like over 40 years or 20 years because they launched a program like 40 years ago. So they experience with infectious diseases during their work time. Also, therefore, we would like to know what different experience they face or they have, like coping with the pandemic or crisis like COVID-19, what changed their roles and what kind of adaptation they have to do, upgrading their skills and so on during the COVID-19. Next slide. So therefore, for our research question, we would like to know more about the general life of how is the life of the health volunteer, how are village health volunteers coping with COVID-19 under the changing circumstances. Okay. Sorry, yes. Yeah, and also objective is to understand the life of VHV before and during the COVID-19 and to examine how VHV balance their life and work. Yes. Next slide, yes. So this is our literature review. First, we compare the volunteerism and healthcare. We look at the relation of the volunteerism and healthcare. So in volunteerism, according to some articles, they say like volunteerism benefit not only to the community, but also to the volunteer themselves. So for the community, is by doing by having this program, it strengthen the social connection, cohesive community. And also from that one, the outcome was they can deliver their public goods and services to their own community. So from working as a volunteer, they also gain like benefit or advantage from that one, such as increase their social economy of one's life. For example, they can chase of the better opportunities. They got more credit in applying jobs, or like applying, if they are students, they can apply for the scholarships, or they got more credit from their work. And next. So yeah, their volunteerism can be taken into different forms, like home-based system, or community-based and hospital-based setting. In Thailand, we mostly the VHV more relate with the community-based and home-based system. That volunteerism can be like under government or non-governmental organization. Yes. And also, like generally, they contribute like increasing demand of informal care, because they, especially in the remote area, which is difficult, hard to reach area, to give the like Medicare service in those areas, it also increase because of volunteering work. It can increase the demand of informal care, and also it enhance the social connection. And next. Yes, and the second topic was the roles of the health volunteer in general. before I mention about the rules, I would like to talk about the declaration that they have to emerge the public health system, like which called Emma Declaration in the International Conference in 1978, organized by WHO and UNICEF. So they declare the call for the health for all. So they knew that primary health care as the key attaining to purchase their goal health for all. So they decided to call for all nations to have to launch a program like urgent and effective national international action to implement the primary healthcare system. So in here, primary healthcare means like essential healthcare, which is accessible to individuals and families through their participation, and also maintain development by self-reliance and self-determination, and also integrate to the main body of the healthcare system. Yes, next please. So here is the village health volunteer in Thailand. So if we look at their like roles, the thing they have done and how many their numbers. So the main focus area is like in malnutrition, infectious diseases and chronic diseases. Those are the main three focus areas that they do in their community as a VHV. So for their general roles, before they work as a volunteer, they have to build the skills. Like for example, 7-day basic training in primary healthcare and 15 days of specialized job training in healthcare promotion. So they for their roles, they have to organize the community, and also they do the job like advocacy and educating the villages, and also if there are crises like COVID-19, they have to do prevention and controlling the diseases. So according to these, the statistics on the date of 26 August 2019, there are around like over 1 million village health volunteers in Thailand. And yes, so health volunteer in the COVID-19 situation, they have to promote their roles as a health volunteer to be more proactive and update in coping with the COVID-19. So they have to upgrade their skills, knowledge, and the system. So for the system, they upgrade, like they install the checkpoints in the enter and exit of their own community. And also they had the regular visit to houses to collect the personal risk data and to do the report. And knowledge and skills, yes, they do adapt during the COVID crisis. They use communication tools and technologies for the health assessment, and also they also receive the training coping with the COVID-19 to upgrade their knowledge and skills. They also face the limitation here, like they, as a health volunteer, they do have multiple roles. Like they work as a volunteers. On the other hand, they also have their own occupations, so they have to manage it. And also safety equipment. There is a like shortage of the safety equipments to secure themselves, and also burden of working long process. COVID-19 take a lot of time, and like for the quarantine, it took like 14 days, and for the treatment, so they have to give more time in their working processes. Next, please. So this one, my friend will cover it.
Conceptual framework is we have put a conceptual framework by in the pre-COVID situation, people in the community live normal life, but after happened the situation of epidemic of COVID-19 in children group, COVID has affected many sectors such as life change, social activity, economic, health status, and health status. COVID situation made the district public health work harder in community, but it's good to have village health volunteer to help the health district worker. We can working together to prevention, surveillance, and control situation under COVID situation as tracing work. Although in addition, there is cooperation within the community. We must work with community profession, different departments to deal with problems such as we work screening, visiting home, and favor testing and distribute food to people. We collect data and make report to district health office. And working to health field hospital, it can be seen that the work of volunteer has increased, but they're still able to work and solve the COVID problem successfully. It's interesting how they work a cooperation strategy and they can manage work-life balance that can make their work more efficient and success to deal the problem in community. The next slide. We use research method of quality research methodology. We have studied sample selection as a T-village health volunteer, health government official and teacher because they directly involved in situation and visiting the place to study at แม่คือ subdistrict ดอยสะเก็ด district เชียงใหม่ province. Next data collection, we contact with district health officer, inform them about our research project, ask district health officer to make contact to health to ask for interview with people directly involved in situation and collect information. And the last is data collection method. We create interview question by semi-structured interview with open question list and conduct interview. Interview at the time and place that is convinced by making appointment first. We take the interview time not longer than 1 hour and ask volunteer for permission to record and prepare note taking and audio record. The two transcript audio interview from the record. Next.
So I'm going to talk about the situation. And now I'm so sorry that I cannot like turn on the video because my internet connection is quite poor. So there are like 4 main things in like this situation. First is COVID-19. The second one is about kids that 2 to 4 years old in Meku sub-district. And the other main thing is field hospital. What is happened is about like kids age 2 to 4 years old, they get COVID infections and they live in Meku sub-district, and this village, they don't have like the field hospital. And the field hospital, the existing field hospitals in Chiang Mai, they are not suitable for like these kids. So like they try to launch the field hospital in the sub-district. From this timeline, we can see like they launched the field hospital on the 23rd of April 2021, but like they have like notice of the first case of the COVID on the 17th, is like a week before like launch the field hospital. The first case that like get COVID into the child daycare center is from like one of the teacher, they get infected COVID. And then on the 18th, like another 5 teacher get the COVID test and has the result show that 2 teachers get infections. So on the 19th, like the sub-district, the district organization, and also like the promoting hospital in the village, they kind of do the meeting and like find a way out what they will do when like the kids get infections also. And the 20, they get the 54 children to get the test, and the result show on the 21st that 16 children get infections. Then they prepare the field hospital in 2 days and launch the hospital on the 23rd. This map will show like the red cycle is the Mai Khư sub-district. It's in the Doi Sket district in the Chiang Mai province of Thailand. You can see like it's not far, like too far from the city, but this not in the city, and they also live in their village, in their community. This picture is sorry. This picture is show the area of the municipality office of the Mai Khư sub-district, which is they launched the field hospital, and you can see that the place around us is the field, and it's quite far from the house and the place that people live. So they decided to launch the field hospital in this area. When we zoom in, we will see like there are 5 buildings in this. The first one, the A, is like municipality office building. So they just like do the kind of the office stuff, and the B is like utility dome. Is they like prepare for do many things in this, and the C is like kindergarten school for kids. D is child daycare center, which is they launched the field hospital, and E is the stadium. So they like close all of this building and be like make it be closed, and use the D building for like for be the field hospital for the patient, for the kids. And the C building is was being used for the doctor and nurse that to prepare for like emergency case and take care of the kids. And the B building, that the utility dome, they use for like store the staff from donation, and like for the like staying for the staff. This the building that they launched the hospital, and in front of the building they have like some playground for the kids, because this like the place that kids come every day. So they decided to use this place because it's like family to the kids, and the physical place is quite perfect for launch the hospital. And it also have like permission from the health district, from the health province of Chiang Mai also. This will show like the number of the patient. So they launched this hospital especially for the kids. So before they launched the field hospital, there are a total of the 20 there are 70 patients of the COVID, and they just put like all of this into the field hospital on the 23rd, but they have like some change on the 24th and 29th. On the 24th, they had more 2 kids and like 5 more parents. And the teacher and the parents in this field hospital, they were not like quite have like a lot of illness. They just like have little illness, and they have to take care of kids. And one teacher that moved out is the first teacher that get infection of COVID. She had to move out because she cannot stay in terms of the like psychology part. So the doctor just advised her to like move to another field hospital, and then put more parents to take care of the kids. And then on the 29th, there is one more kids that like come to stay together, but she is like 10 years old kid, so like she can help teacher and parents take care of like young kids, and they closed the field hospital on the 4th of May, which is just 12 days in the lunch in the launching, but like it's more than 14 years from the like first test of the COVID, and they just moved like a kid that come on the 29 to the children and maternity hospital, and other people just get back home and like stay for a week and then get like a COVID test after that, and everyone fine. In terms of the operation of work, they divided into 3 departments. So in terms of like the health and mentality, the treatment, the doctor and the nurse will take care of like the kid illness and like the psycho part kind of that. Like, and the next one is the organization and donation. Uh, as I say, like they haven't planned before to launch the field hospital, so they don't have like capital for this, and they do the donation, which is quite like quite success. They get like around 1 million baht, and like the staff quite a lot. Also, the food from the many organizations.
Still there? It's frozen. Come back. That channel.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Lost connection.
You can keep talking, and if you cannot show the slide, more can help. Yeah, and you keep talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can maybe I will try to share.
Can you please?
Yeah. That channel can keep talking, can keep present the
Okay.
information, and more show the slide.
Oh, I think you can show.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Okay. So from the third part is about like outside field, which is they have to take care another person in the village, like the people that they will risk and have to be quarantined at their home. So like the health volunteer and the community, they cook the food for the families that they have to quarantine at house, and they also do the like checking status of the COVID symptom like daily. And we can see that the health volunteer, they're taking part into of like two departments of work, and the treatment part just about like hospital, about nurse and doctors. Next slide, please.
Sorry.
This will show like the actors of like this operation. We divided into like three categories. First is about hospital and health organization. Like the the main role of the health organization is Ban San Ton Hand Hospital, Ban San Ton Hand Health Promoting Hospital, which is like the local hospital in the village. And the second one is Doisket Hospital, which is the district hospital. They take a lot of role in this. And the next is Nakhon Ping Hospital, Children and Maternity Hospital, and Rajanakan Jinda Industrial of Child Development. These three hospitals, they taking care of the food for the kids and the patient in the field hospital. And then Lana Hospital, they get like a COVID test for the health volunteer after they finish the operation. And the field hospital, there are two field hospital that carrying like another patients of COVID from this case, which is have two places. First at the 700 years in the city, and the next one is the Major, which is in Major University. Next part is about health district public health of Doisket and province public health of Chiang Mai. They kind of do the I just say they like organize how to like deal with the patients, and like they also work with like Maiku communities. And the last one of health organization is the Office of Disease Prevention and Control one, which is they provide the truck for like for testing COVID for the kids and the other person in the village. So they come in like in for special. And next is about Maiku, which is have like 5 roles in this. The first one is about health volunteer, which is we will like talking more later. And the leader of the village, they kind of like be the cooperation of the health organization and the community of Maiku. And the community of Maiku, they also like help each other to cook the food and like prepare the few hospital in this. And Maiku municipality, they do about donation and like get the convenience for the places for launch the few hospital. And the last one is the villagers. It's quite interesting that in Maiku, the villager, they kind of like do what like the leader want them to do, and they are quite like a good village. And the other is just about the donors, which is we cannot like name it naming them in this. And then the Dorset police station, they help for the like safety. They kind of take care of the security at night, which is when they launch the field hospital. The next one is what Nakasita or what Nangu, which is the local temple in the village. They do about like in terms of the food, like they establish the like cooking station for the food that is not for the patient but is for like the staff and the other person in the village that have to be quarantined in their home. And the last one is the Inter Number Aquatic Company Limited. They do about the cleaning the place after like they close the field hospital. In terms of the operation, and we can see like what this community does. Before that, they do the checkpoint stations in the village, like, and then they get the patients for checking COVID for the test, and then prepare the field hospital. During the operation, they also like work with doctor and nurse when like they want some help or want like some assistance. They also arrange the donation because like they get the donation like more than they expect. And they do the daily report by the kind of radio in the kind of like broadcast radio in the village by the village leader. They also report the status of the kids in the field hospital, and they also like update the situation daily. Then they do cooking together and then taking care of the kids family, which is like send the food and checking the covid covid symptom at home, which is this part the health volunteer they they participating after the after lunch the field hospital. They also have some work to do. Is about cleaning the field, managing the staff from donation, which is they get like 1 million baht of donation. So they use like two 200,000 for like improve the shy daily the shy daycare center to like kind of like make it better, and then like donate another money for like in terms of the health COVID situation for villager. And then they also do the like testing for the patients that used to be in the field hospital for 2 times, and everything was fine. So next we'll talk about like the roles of the VHV in the Mekhi sub-district.
Effective cooperation of volunteers resume in Mekhi sub-district. VHV they can work together effectively because many volunteers know each other locally, such as kinship, friend, neighbor. In the period before COVID situation, they often meet together in local organizations to train public health course and practice working together on shared tasks in other public health field, such as a general health problem or emergency care. But after COVID situation happened in community, they have an urgent meeting to make up planning and carry divide duty systematically. And they operate according to the plan together as a result village health volunteer, able to work together effectively. Next slide. In their work, village health volunteer did not work alone. They work with community profession and in different departments, such as participation of village community, which villager, village leader, and health district officer, health province officer. And they report information risk group and situation about COVID to the district health office, doctor or health professional from the state hospital. And they set up and clean up a few hospital with province governor, แม่คือ municipality, district health province health, the state hospital and leader village, and work with monks and people in community bring food from house at the temple distribute to people who are self-quarantine, and health แม่คือ municipality take care of things that are donated. Next slide. Health volunteer facilitate between community and district health office. For example, we follow up people from outside the area come to live in the village and estimate risk. Screening visit, home favor testing, distribute food to people who are self-quarantined for 14 days. Invite information of the people in the community and communicate about COVID situation in the community for people to get to know. Taking villager have a symptom or risk group to the state hospital and royal card keep COVID for COVID testing. And collect data, make a report and report situation of epidemic of COVID-19 community to district health office get to know. And health district health set up and clean up a few hospital. Next slide. The next collective strategy for managing risk by village health volunteer, health district officer, village leader, and community. The community, the first strategy is proactive prevention, surveillance, and control COVID-19 situation by they doing follow up people from outside the area come to live in the village and dig group for to screening, favor testing, taking people get tested for COVID, and take care people who are self-quarantined and distribute food or drink. Speed the new communicate with the villager about COVID situation to make college understanding of the COVID disease. And the next strategy is to deal with the problem urgently. First, they make decision and quickly build a few hospitals for children patients and contact a pediatrician from Rajnakarin Hospital to take care of the patient because many patients are children. After closing the field hospital, village health volunteer follow up symptom patient both in physical and mental health. After that, leave the field hospital. Next slide. Factor of success. The first in physical condition, the place they choose the Mercury Child Daycare Center as a location of the field hospital because due to distance from the community and Mercury Child Daycare Center, there are devices that can allow children to do activity together. Next slide, population. The population is not a large district. District health we can control outbreak. Speed of sorry, sense of community. People feel pity and want to help patient children and would like situation to deal quickly. Good leadership. This thing have leadership make decision act quickly and systematically plan. Cooperation and inclusive. People in community fully cooperate because speed spread new and acknowledging accurate information about the disease from village health volunteer. Cultural practice. Thai culture like a donation causing a large amount of donation in COVID situation. Mutual respect. They can work together without bias. The last, having essential skill and technology, volunteering training. Village health volunteer often join train public health course and practice working together. Experience in working, many village health volunteers in community have a accumulating year of work experience in public health make it work efficiently. IT and media technological advance have made it easy to collect therapeutic data, follow up this group of patients and volunteers have easy access to the media get to know about COVID situation. Next.
For the conclusion, from the factor of success, physical conditions, speed of people, and essential skills and technology. In terms of this, we can see it helped the actors, which is the health organizations and the medical community. They can work to each other and do the operation quite well, and everything success. And one key of this operation is the village health volunteer, which is we would say that they don't do the main role of this, but they quite important that to have everything outside the field, also organize something in the field, be success. And the last thing is about the Meku sub-district community. They are quite strong community and they can work together quite well. So this all of our research.
Okay, thank you very much for Mo and Thanawat and Ratchanon. So now is the time for the floor. If anyone would like to have the questions or comments, please. While waiting for the comments and the discussion, I would like to say you have, because I'm the part of your supervisors, this team. So as you presented last presentation with the supervisor, with the mentors, I think you have done the better presentation and the slide much better than the previous rehearsal that you have been doing too. So quite okay this time. And also it seems to me that you break it into two. For the one is the macro structure, the background about the COVID-19 context, and the VHV, the village health volunteer, in the macro context. And then the next section is about the field work, and the substantial village that you want to examine the roles of the village health volunteer, and so in that part you go for the intensive field work and collect the more information from the field, and it's quite presented in terms of the detail, and it needs the detail to connect to the contribution, the conclusion. So for me it's quite a connection to say that how the field work to showing the role of volunteer to connect with the case as the lesson learned. It seems to me that this part is need to connect it. Ajahn Taro, do you have any comment?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Srifan. Dr. Srifan, I think we hear some kind of noise, I think, from your microphone. Looks like there's a thunderstorm or something hitting your house with a flood. No, it's okay. You're muting.
I'm changing. I'm trying to change the microphone. So
Okay.
you can start.
Yeah. So I might have missed. Well, thank you first of all for the presentation. Very important topic, and I'm really intrigued about this health volunteers working in villages. After all, you need to really mobilize the human resources, many people to reach remote areas to help people in villages to cope with the pandemic. About this health volunteers, I'm just curious about the kind of qualifications for them to become health volunteers. Can anybody become a volunteer, or is there certain kind of qualifications that they needed to have to apply? So I'd appreciate information.
Non, would you like to answer the question?
Non-disappear. Mo, if you can.
Yeah. So to become a health volunteer, they don't have like a specific body like education background or other thing. Like anybody in the village, if they are like willing to, or if they have voluntary mindset, they can apply. But they have to apply first. So after that, they have a system of like accessing the training. Only after the training they can work as the volunteer. Yeah.
I see. Very interesting. So there's no even like age. The qualification age limit. Anybody, even the as young as say secondary school students or university students can apply, and even the quite elderly people like 70 years old, 80 years old people could apply. Very interesting, but that shows to me sort of a commitment of the government to really reach out to remote areas because they want to really mobilize so many people to reach the remote areas. So, okay, well, thank you for the information, and yeah, wish you good luck on the continuation of the research.
Okay, if there's no questions, so we can thank you very much for the team of the health volunteer. So we go for the next presentation, the last one for today, on the state power and policies with COVID-19. Please, the floor is yours.
Okay, hello and welcome to COVID-19 in Thailand, State Power and Policy. Can you see my screen and hear me?
Yeah, we see the screen and yes.
Okay, great. So here is what we're going to be talking about. First, we have the introduction, and then I'll talk about our analytical framework, how we use Thailand as a case study, and then our conclusion, final thoughts. So for the introduction, a lot of you guys probably know that infectious diseases are very prevalent in Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia has been ground zero for quite a lot of things like H5N1 and such. H5N1, also known as like avian flu. And these infectious diseases are securitized. They're not considered a normal security issue, such as like requiring military. Instead, they're non-traditional security. And this is something that has to go through a securitization process. So traditionally, the Eurocentric version of securitization includes actors declaring something as a threat to national security to their audience and requires the audience to accept the securitization for it to be successful. I will talk more about this, but securitization is a mainstream concept popularized by the Copenhagen School in Denmark. This is very widely used by ASEAN scholars, but we have some adjustments that we would like to make to the securitization version. So we will be arguing that successful securitization is not actually dependent on target audience's decision to accept or not accept the securitization. Instead, in Southeast Asia, it is dependent on who wins in the power struggle between securitizing actor and audience. We will also argue that the roles of securitizing actors and audience are not fixed, as seen in our Thai case study. So this is a traditional securitization process for anyone who does not know. A securitizing actor, which is often politicians, but can also be like NGOs, civilians, they persuade a non-traditional security issue such as COVID-19 or drugs to become a security issue to the target audience. And then it is up to the target audience to accept it. And if the audience accepts it, it becomes a successful securitization. If the audience does not accept it, it only becomes a securitization move. So this is the traditional securitization process as given by Yud. But this process is somewhat criticized by ASEAN or Southeast Asia scholars because of its Eurocentric things. Like in this version, a successful securitization allows the government to use extreme measures, which are measures that do not follow democratic process. But a lot of countries in Southeast Asia already do not have a democratic process to follow. So let me present to you our securitization process. Our securitization process looks more like this. So there's a securitizing actor and there's a target audience. There's a power struggle between them. And the one who wins this power struggle is the one who will be able to successfully securitize. This is what we found in Southeast Asia's securitization process. This is due to the social conflict concept that we will cover more later, but essentially in non-Western, non-democratic states, they are more likely to be fragmented and to have different social groups with different goals and interests, which creates a power struggle. A securitization move and a successful securitization are put over here to show that it's not relevant to audience acceptance or not. It's not relevant. It's only up to the power struggle. So let's move on to methodology. For methodology, we did completely online interviews. We provided the interviewees with consent forms to guarantee their anonymity, their right to withdraw at any time, and their right to review the paper before publishing. So far, we've interviewed one WHO official, where we questioned him on Thai policies, WHO's perspective on Thai policies, and then we also interviewed one high-ranking police officer to see how the police viewed protests and government action during protests. And then we interviewed 7 protesters from various protests in Chiang Mai and Bangkok, where we gathered valuable first-hand data from their experiences, their personal experiences. And we have another interview with a protester coming up this weekend. So we are not actually finished gathering evidence. So if you're interested in seeing our timeline of interviews, you can see it here. This is the day. These are the protesters or the labels for the interviewees and how long each interviewee took. Feel free to observe this. And all interviewees allowed us to record the interviews, but we guaranteed to them that we will delete all recordings after 2 weeks. And we transcribed all the interviews already, and we plan to delete the recordings very soon. For the interviewees that we mostly conducted our interviews in English, but for the interviewees that preferred Thai, we had a Thai interpreter to help us. Moving on. Ajahn David, our mentor, also helped us a lot with doing field work. So Ajahn David on June 25th at the Three Kings Monument observed a protest himself with our Thai interpreter as seen here. He conducted 3 informal interviews at this protest. So for the 3 informal interviews, one was a 13-year-old girl who joined the protest due to disappointments in government's handling of COVID-19. She expressed that the poor handling led to her education being compromised and her family income being compromised as well. A protest organizer revealed that he is in contact with the Milk Tea Alliance and has weekly meetings, and that they use social media to spread their ideas and to reach the international scale by working together. And we had a monk protester who is a member of the Wila party, mostly consisting of CMU students, but there are some monks as well. He joined the protest to bring awareness to problems in Thailand. The interviewees that we interviewed formally also gave us some information. So one protester explained that he had an arrest warrant out for him when he was in Bangkok, and that in Chiang Mai, police came to his house twice. But this protester is very passionate about the pro-democracy movement, and he condemned police and government action. He said, "It is absolute violence, completely unacceptable because they used water cannons and rubber bullets. The use of these things is not in line with international standards of dispersing protests." Also, many of the protesters said that they felt safe during protests regarding COVID-19 and that everyone wore masks when in crowds. There was even a claim that only one person ever got COVID-19 from a protest, and that person was a leader who took their mask off to make a speech. Some people even said they felt safe from COVID-19, but they didn't feel safe from the government because there's some danger with protesting. So the police officer expressed that students have a responsibility to not create risks, and that he wishes that they would wait for the situation to be better before protesting, and that it's too risky to protest right now. He says that there are students that have been arrested in Chiang Mai for violating the emergency decree, and that they are under investigation. But on the other hand, WHO representative praised Thailand. He said for almost a year, Thailand did not have basically any local or community-based transmissions, while other countries were experiencing massive catastrophic outbreaks. This shows the difference in perspective from our different interviewees. And now MJ will take over.
Hi, now I'm going to take over the presentation. So so my part is to talk about social conflict concept and analytical framework. So Southeast Asia securitization varies from that in democratic Western countries. In Southeast Asia, we argue that the group that wins the power struggle can foster securitization. The Eurocentric securitization theory cannot explain Thailand COVID-19 securitization or similar in Southeast Asia. So social conflict theory concept is a political economy approach from Model University that uses social and political factors to explain policies and outcome, especially in Southeast Asia. So this is the social conflict concept. We made this diagram to help understand what this social conflict concept is. So usually when we think of a country like South Korea, Japan, like a democratic country, we see a country, a state as a united entity because there's an interaction is between the government and the audience, the civilians. However, how we see the state is a bit different. We see state as a fragmented state. For example, you look at the diagram here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So one can be, let's say this is a Thailand. So one can be a monarchy power, 2 can be a government, 3 can be a conglomerate owners, and 4 can be NGO or societal like progressive movement or protesters. So these are different societal groups within a state, but they are not united. These fragmented actors, they always contest each other over a resource and over political power, because this is the nature of Southeast Asia politic. This is including Thailand as well, because this is applied to COVID-19 pandemic right now. So this is like a monarchy competing against, not competing, the pro-democracy movement competing against the monarchy. So this is how we see it. They always contest over resource and power. It's because they have they pursue their own interests, and their interests can collide with other societal groups' interests. That's why we have conflict. So John argued that the state response to security issues should be analyzed through multiple societal factors and group within the state. We should view policy as an outcome of power struggle between forces. So whoever wins the contestation or battle will decide the outcome. So during the power struggle, different side will have opposing ideal scales to address their issue in a way that the most beneficial. Some want to scale jump, which means a shifting political contestation to a different scale to bring in new actors and resources. So this is a very important keyword, politics of scale. So as Hamari and John explained, the address the issue in a way that is most beneficial. So for example, I'm gonna use Thailand as an example right now. This is ongoing. So Thai government want to keep the issue at the national scale as it benefits them. They weaken the movement through the arresting protesters using emergency decree. While Thai process a joint military alliance of Hong Kong and Taiwan and Myanmar to bring international awareness, thus try to scale jump. So what is going on here is this Thai protesters is trying to scale jump their issue. So keeping the Thailand issue that the Thai protesters protesting against that Thai democracy is not really a democracy. So we need a adjustment. This is what they're protest against the government. So protestants themselves have not enough power to power to compete against the government, that they're not strong enough to threat the government. So what they're doing right now is trying to spread the awareness above, beyond the domestic boundary, like beyond Thailand. So like so that the third party, the foreign powers, like could be US, could be UN or other NGO, can involve to support protesters so that they gain power to threaten the Thai government, so they can change, so they can get the democracy they're looking for. But what the Thai government want is keeping them at the domestic level. They do not want the Thai protests to get third party, like a foreign power, because if we're going to annoy them, right? So Thai government want to keep them at the domestic level. Oh, so this Thai process issue is just our issue, this is not a big of deal problem at the domestic level. So under the domestic scale, Thai government has a lot of power over these protesters because they have the tool called law. So they can use emergency decree to disband the protesters, something like that. They have the law as a power to control the people. That's why Thai protests trying to scale jump their issue to the global level, so the people come in. Just like Myanmar right now, the civil war going on in Myanmar, like the Myanmar government, they just block out all the news reporter from the outside country, so no one knows what is going on in their country, because what I believe is going on in Myanmar is like they're violating our human right and killing innocent people because they don't want the involvement of other country. So this is the politics of scale, and these two societal group is contesting to control the politics of scale. So it's the case study of Thailand. In October, protests began gathering thousands of people to securitize the lack of democracy in Thailand and illegitimacy of the government. So that's why Thai people are gathered to protest against the government. And Thai government used a severe state of emergency decree to ban gatherings and allowed police to use water cannons, tear gas, and rubber bullets to disperse the protesters. WHO was not involved in this action and have no authority to enforce their guideline. Thailand acted independently through their policies. So this is a power struggle between Thai government and protesters, simultaneously trying to securitize a separate issue, showing that roles are not fixed. Thai government has securitized COVID-19, but audience did not accept. Eurocentric securitization cannot explain this situation. So what is going on is Thai government is trying to securitize COVID-19, but Thai protester is trying to securitize the democracy, the true democracy in Thailand, demonstrating against the lack of democracy in Thailand. So these two forces are fighting. So these protesters come to protest despite of COVID-19 because they see this democracy issue is more important than the COVID-19. So we have, I'm going to show you the next diagram. So this is securitization process in Thailand. So I'm going to explain what is going on in Thailand, what is power struggle, and who's gonna the securitization. So the Thai government is securitizing actor for COVID-19 and also audience for democracy movement and protester here. Protesters are securitizing actor for democracy and audience for COVID-19. So Thai government is telling protesters we have to secure the COVID-19 issue. So the protesters are audience for COVID-19, but protesters, they question back. They question back to say the government. So, but protesters want to securitize democracy. So the Thai government is democracy, audience for democracy movement. So they're both audience to each other, and they're both are trying to be a securitizing actor. So these two forces, they always compete each other, and this securitizing process happen simultaneously on the both sides. And there's a power struggle. So whoever wins the struggle will successfully securitize. So if the government win against a protester, the COVID-19 will be successfully securitized. If protester win Thai government, they will securitize the democracy that they are seeking for. So this is a securitization move, and successful securitization is depend on who wins the power struggle, who wins the power struggle. So we have found, so what is the gap? What is the gap on the conventional securitization process? The securitization that the theory made up by the Europeans. So we are trying to fill this gap, that explain the gap that the securitization process don't have in Southeast Asia. So we want to add two adjustment. Like successful securitization depend on who wins the battle of power struggle. It's not single-sidedly just one government telling audience, oh, we are going to securitize this. Do you agree or not? It's not like that. They have these two societal forces competing. They struggle over struggling, and they're contesting each other. Another one is the role of securitizing actor and audience are not fixed. One can be both simultaneously. As I showed the diagram before, they can be both. While the conventional securitizing theory said there will be only one actor, securitizing actor, but our case we have two. So this is our conclusion. We acknowledge that we had research limitations such as not being able to conduct interviews in person, not being able to conduct any interview with politicians, time constriction and topic sensitivity let us being unable to find some relevant information regarding Thai government. Yes, of course, our topic is very sensitive, and so there's some people were reluctant to accept our interview. And the Thailand power struggle demonstrate and support our theory of securitization process. When applied to South Asian and found it to be accurate in the case of democracy movement in 2020, 2021, during the COVID-19 pandemic. This time, both the government and the protesters were working to securitize a separate issue while being audience to the other securitizing actor. So thank you for listening. This is the end of our presentation. Is there any question?
Thank you very much, Alisa and Sung. I think that's very good presentation. Now at the moment, I think there is only one. I am here as the mentor who gives you the comments and the exchange idea. So let me ask other student, Tim, Mo and Nachanon, do you have any question to Sung and Alisa for the presentation? Đi con xong rồi.
No, I'm here. Yeah.
Okay, you have the question? Any question?
Yeah, they talk about like who will win, government or protester, which is like I don't know what we cannot decide right now. But what do you think about it? The government will keep using the like COVID-19 as a tool to securitize, or like what will be the alternative way for protest to cope with that agenda? Yeah. Do they have any strategy?
So the protesters currently are trying to cope by doing, as we showed in the field work, they're doing protests that are more socially distanced, and they give out masks at these protests to take away from the agenda that, oh, protests cause clusters. They're saying they're working against it by still complying with the government's regulations. In fact, that they let the government or let the police officers know that they're going to have a protest. So police officers can be there, and the police officers can arrest them if they do something against the emergency decree. But because they're following the guidelines quite strictly, they stay safe that way. Did I answer your question?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So,
Any other questions?
Nachanon, do you have any question? Okay. So this is my response to your presentation. I think it seems to me that you guys are very happy with the concept securitization and social conflict, especially Sung. It seems to me that you take very important ideas on this concept, and you try to bring it into the case study, and Arisa also on the securitization. I think you very entertained with the concept. I use the word entertain because this is my a little bit wonderings about your case study. Since the Mo asked you the question, it's remind me that you treat COVID-19 situation as the strategy of the state, the Thai state, to balance or to negotiate, to stop the protest, right? That's it. You don't use the COVID-19 situation as a kind like as the case to examine the state power. The state power exercise that power toward COVID-19 itself. You don't do that, right? For example, you talk about the state power and try to make the regulations as the securitization, but not based upon the COVID-19 issue itself, like the emergency decree. The emergency decree is based on the COVID-19 issue, but not for the democracy movement, right? So that's why I just wonder that you move a little bit to understand the COVID-19 in different way of using the COVID-19 as the topic. Because in Thailand, actually nowadays or during the past year, the 1 year past, the Thai government has been utilize the different protocol and different emergency decree in exercising the power. And also nowadays you will see that some people who get struggle with the regulation, the policy and the decree, they now protest. Just a few days ago, they have the campaign on, in Thai we call กูจะเปิดร้านมึงจะทำไม Now it means that you understand Thai, right? It means that I will open the shop. What gonna happen to you? Nah, I want to do that. It's a kind like a protest. Nah. It's a symbolic, but actually it's now become a campaign in the social media. But actually it's become the practical way that some shop, some restaurant who get the very negative impact from the doctors and from the state, try to against the state power in that way. But if you change the COVID-19 in that examination, that look is okay. But I thought this is what I thought. I thought you're gonna do analysis on the COVID-19 itself in linking with the securitization based on the COVID-19 issue. That's okay. But another one is you can respond me now if you think that you will go that way, not the way that I explained to you on the COVID-19 issue. Another one is the politics of scale from Zoom. The slide that you show in different scale, is it the geographical scale? Yeah, this one. This is the geographical scale, or actually is the power scale. I'm not sure that what you mean.
So the theory politics of scale is actually geographical study. So it is a scale on geography.
So in your thinking, in your opinion, would you think that you can abstract a little bit from the geographical scale into the power scale? So the geographical scale is just the surface, right? But when you analyze the politics, the power, the politics of power, so you can abstract a little bit. The case that you show, Thai government try to bring the scale into the domestic scale. This is such kinds of the power and the claim, the claim of the scale claiming. In another group, the Thai protester is try to broaden to the international scale. So it's a power struggle together, right? So you can claim it more abstract into the power scale. That could be your contribution for the paper, not just strict to the article that you read, but actually you can dialogue with the article and then you broaden them into your idea. So I suggest that you can extend the geographical scale into another scale more abstract into that. So the first question, actually the first one that I asked you, so you answer me in terms of what? COVID-19 as the utilization of the state power to claim as the securitization?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so that's it. So that's it. All right. Because it will be interesting if you look into the COVID-19 issue itself in Thailand, and they are struggling with the people, the Thai people, the Thai ordinary people, and especially for the doctor. They have a bunch of the doctor who integrate into the COVID-19 situation administration center in the central government. That one, the power of the doctors in Bangkok are really important. Take the important role to work to force the government and to force the protocols to deal with the COVID-19. Anyway, it's just another idea if you want to do it. All right, no more. For me, that's all. No, so I think it's time for very quiet now. It's time to close the session, and I will let you know that tomorrow morning, please come to join the other two presentations on the local economies and on the local knowledge. No, so we'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock in the morning, 9 a.m. Are you?
Unfortunately, I cannot make it because I have another meeting scheduled at that time. But I will try to join to see if I can get the last session.
Okay, thank you. Okay, see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for your
Bye.
suggestions.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.